And we're live.
We're live now? Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining. So the first item on our agenda, which was noticed, very exciting. Thank you, Tatiana, for coming. First item is just to clarify with everybody in case you've missed it. I know some people have been traveling. Serena, it's so good to see your face again. You've been out of town for like the whole summer. So,
Missed you.
And actually now with the two of us are neighbors in our neighborhood, so we should be just doing this together right now. But anyway, so I wanted to give an update. And Tatiana, please feel free to jump in with anything I'm missing. Yeah, so we just got some really helpful clarity from the county about I think that's just going to help us stay on track better, be better in compliance with open meetings and records, and just be better in compliance to make sure that we're being very transparent, and that the public has access to everything that we do and has the opportunity for public comment, etc. So we will, be noticing all committee meetings just like we do our regular monthly meetings. Every committee meeting needs to be noticed. We'll submit an agenda. I'm very process oriented, and deadline rules like this are great for me. So I'm very excited. We'll be noticing the agenda and sending that out about a week in advance. Now I know that committee chair needs to send that out, so I will do that a week in advance next time. Sorry, that went out just this afternoon.
Oh, it's fine.
And then we'll also need to take minutes, which I guess I'm happy to do. It doesn't really matter. I have it pulled up on my computer. If that is okay. So next meeting we'll start by looking at these minutes, and we'll hold a vote to approve, just like we do in the normal monthly meetings. We don't have minutes to approve for this meeting.
Right.
So we'll do that moving forward. So that's pretty much it for that. I just kind of want to give everyone a heads up. But I think all of this is going to really help everybody. We're going to keep on track a lot better with our work. It's going to make it a lot easier to know what's going on, both for us who are doing the work and also for, the public if they want to check out what we're doing. So that's it. So I think we can, is there any questions or discussion about that before I move on? Okay.
And that
Great.
was, yeah. And this is, this isn't a rule that's like just for us. This rule applies to all of the, they're referred to as BACs, boards, authorities, and commissions. So we are one of over 50 boards, authorities, and commissions that are part of, Athens-Clarke County's team of folks advising on all kinds of things, from transportation to planning to taxes to everything. So, these are state laws. These are things that they're trying to really get everyone in compliance with. It's not like, I just want to give us more work to do, or I'm trying to be mean or anything like that. This is just like, it's just to keep things really, like Madeline said, really transparent. We're talking about public funds, taxpayer funds. So it's just really important that, nothing is a secret. So even our committees, everything we discussed, it's all, open and transparent. So thank you for, everyone for being, cooperative and understanding of all of that. So appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Tatiana. I think we're ready to move on now. If there's no other comments, up to the next item on the agenda, to hear a website update from Helen. So take it away, Helen.
Yeah, so I have drafted a scope of work for our website redesign, and I sent it out to everybody so y'all could take a look at that and see if there's anything that we might need to add or change or whatever. And I did have the opportunity to meet with Stephanie and Tatiana just to understand better the process for how we get a vendor, a consultant on board to provide the graphic services to do the redesign. And so, based on the sort of basic standard operating procedures, we are going to be putting out this scope of work to a number of vendors, potential vendors, and then we need to get at least 3 quotes and proposals, and we can look at those and select the one that best fits our needs. And then the purchasing department for the city kind of handles all the administrative purchasing stuff. So we don't have to really get involved in all that, but the main thing is that we need to get a number of quotes. We select a vendor based on some criteria, and you can see in the draft that I came up with a few items for criteria, and the main ones being that we want a firm that has that can really demonstrate that they're creative, because we got to have a creative, cool website, but it also needs to be functional, so we need to have some evidence that these firms have already produced high quality websites that we can take a look at examples of, and that and then I thought it might be good to have some history or experience in dealing with nonprofits, government organizations, folks of that sort. And so we can kind of, use that as criteria for how we select a vendor. So as soon as we go out, get the proposals in, we can meet as a group and select a vendor, and then use that as the to move forward with purchasing, and they'll do all that onboarding of a vendor. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
Helen, do you want me to pull up that scope of work and share it, or?
Sure, if you'd like to. And, I just sent it out this afternoon, so I know it's a little bit last minute. So, we might maybe in the next week
If you just want to, yeah, if you all just want to
just
marinate on it
take
on
a
your
look
own.
at it, digest it, see if there's anything more that we want to add to that. And especially, I think the main thing is that we need some handle on evaluating the firms so that we can, we have to have a good rationale why we picked one vendor over another. And particularly if they, we don't necessarily need to go with a low bid proposal, but if we don't go with a low bid proposal, then we need to have a good reason why we didn't use a low bid vendor. So we want to have some criteria that we can use to justify our selection. So ponder the criteria element. I think that'd be really important. And as well as, just the scope, all the elements that are involved in website development. And then if any of you have ideas, thoughts about who might be good to solicit some quotes from, that would be good for me. I know that we are going to, we'll put it, we want to go ahead and put this forward to Captive 8. They're the folks that did the Music Walk of Fame plaque, and they did a really great job, and I'd love to have them have the opportunity to put in a proposal for that. Serena, did you have a question?
Yes, regarding the vendors, I'm wondering how it's, so we said maybe three projects. Do we have any deadline that we want to follow? And how do we put our request out? You know, I feel like if we are working on being transparent with everything that we do, we should be transparent also on these and see and be open to, I don't know, as much as vendor as possible, I would say.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, we want to do it as soon as possible because years are going and we still don't have the website.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's the deadline? Like, do we have any time frame or something? Thanks.
We can put, I think it's a fairly quick process because we don't have to go through a big it's not the same as the process we use for getting artists on board for public art because our budget is pretty low. It's below $10,000, and so we can make that a little quicker.
It's more money than, so if it's over $1,000, we need to get quotes. But if it's under 10,000, we don't need to do a full RFP where we put it out as like anyone can apply. We can make it more targeted and go and just find 3 or a minimum of 3. We could do more, but a minimum of 3 vendors and just say, here is the scope of work. Here's our criteria. What is your quote for this work? And make sure that we are sharing the same information with each vendor, so no one's getting different information to make the assessment. So there's different thresholds that kind of trigger different processes, and I'll be honest, it does get confusing, and I often have to go and check with purchasing and say, okay, is this within this threshold or what is this process? So this is a situation where we're not necessarily looking for like bids, but just quotes. So this is a situation where, like Helen said, it doesn't have to be the cheapest one. We have the full criteria. And so let's say one person can do it cheaper, but another person can do it faster, but a little more money or something like that. That's one of those things that we can use to kind of make a really good case for choosing one over another if they can satisfy one part of our criteria over another. But I do get what you're saying is wanting to cast a wide net. I would say, there is a lot of work that goes into putting a quote together as well. So, I wouldn't want necessarily get a ton of people putting in the labor of putting a quote together and having even less of a chance of getting that opportunity, if that makes sense. Just to kind of give a rationale. But if I would say all of you can maybe make a list of folks that you think might, but if you want to put it out on social media or something like that, that's something that we could do, but I don't know if it's not required part of the process. So I don't know if you want to go to those links.
I think if we do cast the wide net, that would kind of give us an ample amount of options versus perhaps going with somebody that we may know or may have worked with in the past. I think that in regards to website development, it's a very kind of long investment that, design may not be able to truly change for the next 5 years or so. So I think it would be in our best interest to cast as wide a net possible, not necessarily exhausting too much effort or time into this particular project, but rather being able to see or receive a good amount of, and I know it's very different from other projects that we may try to invest in, but I think just seeing the scope of work that other website designers may have performed in the past. And certainly another thing that I wanted to bring up is just the back accessibility of the website. I've had issues where perhaps, you know, I've stepped into a role and there's like a certain website aspect that needs to be updated, and then there's like a certain code, and the website needs to be up to date, and you know, vendors, you know, change, and so there's a lot of complications that may occur if we don't necessarily have kind of a long-term project that is, I don't know what the current situation is, but I know that websites can be complex, and that the coding and the sort of up-to-date software may change, and that if they don't give us all of the information laid out in sort of a document to be able to update and keep all the software current, then that may cause an issue for years to come. So I wanted to also ask about that.
Well, our existing website was developed with WordPress, which is a real standard management software, website software. They call it a content management system, and it's and we, so Tatiana already knows how to manipulate WordPress sites to a degree. And what we're asking for is our pages that can be modified, edited by our own staff, so that we don't have to pay a consultant to make changes every time we need to make a change. So what we're going to be asking for is more of a template pages that have certain text boxes that can be changed, and photographs that can be uploaded and replaced where appropriate. And that's a fairly simple thing. And so we're sort of tied into WordPress, and I don't see us trying to abandon that system, because we already have a hosting company that's providing the hosting services. We have a domain name. We have a lot already in place, and we don't have a lot of dollars to go through and completely re-engineer our website. So we're really after more of a graphic and a little bit of, and some functional updating. But as far as the software goes, since it's WordPress, that kind of gets updated behind the scenes, and that's been in place for a really long time. So I don't see WordPress going away or needing to do a lot of, the software upgrading kind of comes with the territory.
Got it. Cool. Thanks. Yeah, I just worked with a separate, like, I was in a situation working for a client in the past, and I believe they did not have WordPress, which seems to be kind of industry standard. And it was just kind of a sort of like, you have to tear this whole thing down before. I have to speak to so many folks that understand website management, and yeah, they were like, you have to pretty much tear this whole thing down. So I was
we don't want to get into that. And I think we can be pretty confident that if we keep our WordPress environment, it's not that complicated to upgrade just the graphic and functionality components of it. So, but I do think that it would be good to, get, more than 3 quotes, maybe somewhere in maybe 6. And on the other hand, I also feel like we might want to keep it local, so that it's Athens firms and not entertain a lot of, Atlanta firms or other groups. It'd be really nice to be able to support the local graphic design community. So, and there aren't that many of them. So I think with six asks, I think we'll get a pretty broad spectrum of the local community that has the wherewithal to do something like this.
Amazing. Thank you.
Mhm.
I have my little hand up. I'll lower it. I just kind of skimmed through the scope of work, and it looks like in your timeline, which is the project schedule, milestones, and deliverables, you've built in a 6-month period that says ensure for January to June, once the website is launched, it says ensure new website is functioning without issues for a minimum of 6 months after launching. Does that mean that essentially, I mean, that would be a part of the $8,000 budget, and essentially like the developer would be basically consulting with us if there is a problem for that 6-month period, in which that's the most likely time for any new things to be,
Yeah.
Right.
happening.
Like we find a dead link, or there's we're getting an error, or when you click something that we couldn't figure out on our own.
Yeah, there are a lot of glitches that can come up when you replace an old site with new pages, and sometimes they can't all be foreseen. And sometimes that stuff doesn't really show up for a while. So I don't know if 6 months might be too long, but I thought, they need to have it up and running and functional. Usually you'll find out all the glitches in the first month. And so it's unlikely that 6 months out beyond a month that there would be any issues. But it does take a while for Google to re-index and remap websites. And we'll have new pages, and some of those pages might take a while for them to get kind of spread throughout the internet world, and sometimes there can be glitches with all that. So I don't know. It at least takes a month to 6 weeks for all the glitches to show up. And it would be nice if there were any glitches that come up beyond that we have somebody that will just take care of it. Whatever it is, it would be minor. So don't think it would really be a huge impact on their bottom line or on the budget. They should be able to build that in to the proposal without, if they build it right, it shouldn't be an issue at all. So.
Well, thanks for clarifying that. I think the scope of work, just from what I'm seeing, looks really thorough. Thank you so much for putting this together. And Stephanie and Tatiana, thank y'all for meeting with Helen to work all this out. I see like training for Tatiana to be able to manage the website, even though she already has WordPress experience is built in. I think the 6 months, like you're saying, it might be kind of long, but it's not actually 6 months of active work. It's just kind of a buffer period. So I think that all looks good. And I had a question about, I guess just related to this discussion we're having on soliciting bids versus casting a wider net. If we are just directly soliciting bids, does this still get published on county website? Is it still promoted, or is it more of just a direct?
It doesn't have to be.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be. It's one of those things where it's underneath a certain amount. So you're not required to do like a public bid. Like with a bigger project, you would have to do that, and that's a little bit more of a laborious process. But with this, you just have to get a minimum of 3 quotes.
Right. Well, to Helen's point, I'm comfortable after hearing everything else talked about. I'm comfortable keeping it to just direct bid, since we're not required to cast a wider net, and specifically because Helen says with this opportunity, it would be great to keep the dollars local, and to Tatiana's point, to not dilute the pool so much that people are actually like, there's more artists, you know, graphic designers who are spending more time than they need to on something that won't actually pan out for them. I think it kind of reminds me, I guess, a little of the RFQ process we've talked about implementing in our project calls, which I think is fundamentally about targeting calls, not to exclude people, but to really just save the people doing the work, save them effort, and be able to pursue other projects if they're, you know, maybe the project we just, you know, this is the right time to have a more of a limited local scope, for example, or something like that. So, so I'm comfortable with that. But if there's any other discussion about it, you know, please chime in if you like. Okay, then I had one more question about the in the scope of work, the pages and sections involved listed. There's just 2 sections or pages that I think we've talked about in the past, and I know we've talked about this in several meetings, so you're probably pulling from a lot of different locations, but I wanted to ask, I guess, whether the things I have in mind were left off because, like, for reasons, or just because we just kind of forgot to put them on. So the 2 pages I had in mind were, one, events. Would it be possible or appropriate to link to that? Sort of just promoting whatever, you know, our upcoming events are that are related to the commission, whether that could be like a tabling opportunity. That's not something that, you know, anyway, a tabling opportunity or a ribbon cutting or a speaker presentation, etc. Or if that would, for some reason, have to only be on the county website. I'm not sure. And then the other page I had in mind was one of our, just like we have separate pages for Music Walk of Fame and Poet Laureate, the Arts and Community Awards are a recurring project. It's become sort of a cornerstone of what we do. And since it's been, I think, reoccurring since 2016 or 17, that seems to me like it has duration enough to warrant spending some of our resources on making a dedicated space for that. Not only for, I see you have the like call for art page, but I think a dedicated page that could better showcase previous work, previous examples, just have a little bit more space to kind of flesh out those projects that are, you know, done as a service to the county for community benefit, but also it's things that are a little bit more satellite out in the community. So I think they do need a little bit more attention to promoting and making sure that information is centralized in some place. So if there's room in the budget, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think we could, you know, it's hard to tell whether some of these things might not warrant a whole separate page. Some of them just might be sections of a page, you know, scrolling down as opposed to clicking to a new page. And yeah, I think the call for art could be, you know, one could be public art and the other subsection could be public art and community grants, and then highlight both of those categories. But we can add that in there. We can add arts and community grant as a separate thing.
Okay.
And definitely events, you know, the events could be sort of part of our news feed, because we have a news feed. And we can also, you know, we can work with the consultant about the best way to present some of those, that sort of thing, like events and news feeds. How best, do we need separate things for that, or can those be folded together? I don't know. I think that's something we might lean on a consultant to advise us on how to best structure the page for those things. But I think, you know, we'll definitely add in, we need some way to highlight events and recognize arts and community grants.
Yeah. One last thought I had related to the news feed. I'm wondering, is there, and this is really a question for Tatiana, about how the service you use for the newsletter works or could work with the WordPress site. Are the newsletters that you post, do you think they contain, new and significant information enough every time? I don't know how often you send them out. I receive them, but I don't know if it's weekly or monthly or if you have a regular rhythm. Would that be something that we would want to have pop up on the newsfeed, or just keep those separate? Would that be killing two birds with one stone, kind of keeping more content going, or would it be just kind of duplicating information? What do you think?
So everything I send out in our newsletters is also on our website. Uh, um, it's just like, here's new information. So if it's a call for art, it's like we now have a call for art or two calls for art that are open. And that information is also, on our website constantly. But when there's a new thing, we always, do an e-blast with that information, or if there's an event or just any sort of action items to share with the public. But that information all exists statically on our website as well. It's just when it's something new to share. I mean, I don't know if there's people that check our website regularly without a prompt, whether from social media or from our e-newsletter. Maybe some people do. I don't know. I don't. So, is it duplicate information? Yes, but it's not. I don't know if one could replace the other, or vice versa.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They serve different purposes. Yeah.
Sure, and it sounds like you're just taking the information that's on the website anyway and just sending it directly to people, not putting like unique information in the newsletter that we would then miss on the website.
It's usually like just what we would put in a news release, press release, cool. Things like that.
Right.
And there's links, but we put those same links in the website. But with social media, it's not, you can't you can click on the link in a bio on Instagram, but you can't just direct click on it. So sometimes some folks rely on our emails to get notified of calls for art or events coming up or whatever it might be. So this yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Helen, anything else on the website?
No, I think I'd like to finish this up maybe before our next meeting. So if folks could get me comments before then, before our monthly meeting. So next week, I'm going to kind of, wrap this up and get it out there. And then again, any suggestions for vendors would be greatly appreciated.
All right, so I can add to our minutes here that we need to provide feedback via email before our August 8th meeting. So by Sunday, I guess. Sunday, August 5th. All right, any other discussion around that? Anybody? Oh, Serena.
We open the vendor suggestion to the rest of the board.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I think what we'll do on on our monthly meeting is also reference that we've got this in the works, and if folks have ideas for potential vendors, we can solicit. And we can, the information, the scope of work isn't going to change, but we can put that scope of work out, over a period of time. I think we probably ought to have some kind of deadline for a final submittals, submit by some date. So I guess sometime in September is what I'm thinking about.
Would be the deadline, because I think the project schedule says, I guess the company would begin work in October, or we would go through the.
I'm just assuming that it's going to take us a while to get all the paperwork done, and
right.
If we go out in September or the end of August, middle of August to middle of September, have that the period when people can give us their proposals, and then we select it, and then it'll be a few weeks to get them on board. October. And the schedule can be adjusted. It's not written in stone.
Sure. But we can say we're targeting publication of this, or issuing the scope of work to get bids in August, deadline in September. That's what we're targeting. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. And then, and I was thinking that if we could get the website launched and live by January, in that time frame, it's a little quieter. Our business is a little quieter during that time, and it's best to kind of mess with our web stuff during quiet periods, when there isn't a lot of traffic, because if there are glitches, then we can kind of take care of them before there's a lot of people trying to get onto our website. So I think the timing, it works out pretty well for us.
All right, thanks, Helen. If there's no other discussion around that, let's move to the next item on the agenda. I was just hoping to get an update from Tatiana, and if we need to table this till the main meeting, or just a separate conversation with our city attorneys, that would be just fine. Just let me know. But Tatiana, I was hoping to get an update on you around whether there's anything that you are aware of in the BAC manual, et cetera. And I know training's forthcoming and we're all working to understand all this, but I was wondering how that might affect outreach activities, and specifically kind of tabling activities. My questions, if this helps, are kind of around, tabling locations and what is like written down as limitations versus suggestions on where and when those might occur. And then related, are those considered meetings in any way? And third, can we promote those on social media, depending on answers to the other ones?
Yeah, I really don't have an answer. I wouldn't think they would count as meetings, but I would say put that one away for Lisa on Monday.
Sure.
and we'll discuss it, as a group. We did have a very productive meeting with Lisa in regards to arts and community awards and some kind of guidelines for how we can proceed with those. And that was kind of our main focus. So I know there were a lot of other questions that we didn't get to, but there will be other opportunities to kind of get some of those things addressed. So I would say let's wait till Monday. If I have a chance to chat with her prior to that, I will let you know.
Okay.
But I'm not quite sure. It's not something that's really explicitly explained in the BAC manual that I've seen. And I know that, like we said, there is training forthcoming. An update on that is that they are in the process of recording those trainings, and those trainings will be videos that for both staff and for board members as well. So as soon as I get links to those, they'll probably be like a YouTube video or something like that. I will share that with everyone. Maybe we'll even make an event of it in a way, and have some sort of like a watch party or something like that. We'll figure it out, but it is forthcoming, and I'm sure it will address a lot of those questions, because these are things that affect all of the boards and their activities. So yeah, good question. I'm not super sure. I don't see why we couldn't proceed with that, but there may be a sort of a public notification process, just like with any other meeting, where it would have to be posted somewhere. I don't know.
Well, thank you. We will just hold our questions until Monday, or if we don't wind up having time, or if Lisa doesn't know, then we'll work on that. And all that. I'll add this.
Sometimes she has to research stuff herself,
Sure.
because things are So
so I'll add this to our minutes for us to follow up on next time, and we'll try and get an answer between now and then. But that would be great to resolve. We've had some tabling opportunities in the last 6-ish months. and we're not currently on track for our goal of having one a month, and that's okay. It's a pretty aggressive goal. But I think getting that clarity on if there is any limitations, it'll just help us use our time wisely and help to meet our goal on that a little easier. Speaking of goals, if there's no other questions about that for now, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is our strategic planning and priority selection process. So I've sent a couple of reminders through email, and I haven't gotten really any input to the strategic planning document itself. That's something that I've shared in email. Tatiana, I might not have shared it directly with you, but it is accessible in our Google Drive. So it's pretty much just information that we have talked about since our retreat in May, but just would really like to solidify at least our purpose statement and sort of 3 focus areas. I know we have not been able to move forward like we hoped we would by this time on our full commission strategic planning and work plan. I think we're going to be able to move forward on that a little quicker pretty soon. But I think that what we're doing is general enough that I think it's okay to go ahead and commit at least to those, just so we can move this off of the let's follow up, let's push it to next meeting, like just get out of that mode and be done with it. I think that, outreach is one of the 2 standing committees that are described in our bylaws. It's one of the core functions of what the commission as a whole is charged to do. I actually looked up again the bylaws in Article 5. It says specifically one of the duties of the commission is public outreach and education. The ACAC shall endeavor to increase the visibility and awareness of public art through outreach, education, and collaborations. And when I read that, I'd read it before, but it just dropped my memory. I said, oh, that's basically exactly what we have come up with. So yeah, given that it's described in our bylaws, I know we've got some new members here and we're kind of getting back in the swing of things. It's been hard to meet this summer, but would love to move forward on this. So the, let's see, I don't know the best way to do this. Does everyone have access to the strategic planning document that I'm talking about? Is that a link that I should share in the chat, Tatiana, or is that not?
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that.
And Jesus, it looks like I have your, I'm going to change the email address that is associated with that link, just so you know. Sorry, it's your, the other one. So. Okay, I just shared that in the chat if everybody wants to pull it up on their end. Let me make sure Jesus has access. So just starting with the purpose, sort of purpose statement, had a few goals, talked about it, or a few drafts, talked about it a few times. And I just added a new draft that I would like to get your feedback on. That really just, it might be a little wordy, but I think it just kind of merges the statement, the description of our duties that are in the bylaws, along with kind of what we talked about. So that might be sort of a place to land. So for those who can't open it on their end right now, most recent draft I have is, this is totally open for discussion, to increase visibility and awareness of public art and cultural affairs in Athens and foster connections and collaborations that serve the commission's annual goals. Google group is up to date, wonderful. So I added the bit about foster connections and collaborations, kind of speaking to the previous draft and just what we've talked about with what we want to achieve with our outreach team, which is, for example, increasing public engagement at our public events, at our ribbon cuttings and things like that. But also speaking to our desire to, host regular knowledge sharing, networking type of, what's the word I'm trying to say? Events, get-togethers, things like that. I think, whether that's with maybe a members of a public art commission in another city or something like that, I think that's a unique role that the outreach team can serve to make those connections both inside the community and by bringing in folks who maybe are outside of our community, but forming better, relationships with them, and will hopefully lead to collaborations that can just make what we do to serve the public here even better. So I wanted to kind of specify that. Is there any feedback about that draft? Any discussion? Helen, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we just still need some clarity around the legality or the open meetings laws and how they address collaboration with other groups in talking about our business, because that was one of the topics that came up, is that there's some discouragement about bringing other entities into talking about our business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess, it's just something that we need to check in with the city attorneys and see how that flies with our work. I still don't understand that aspect of it, of keeping all of our business, all of our conversations internal. So I guess I mean, maybe we need to share this with the city attorneys and see what they say about our outreach efforts.
Well, I think that's probably a good idea to share it with them for feedback, since we are in this, pretty this time of learning, let's say. I will say for my intent, when I think collaborations or these like types of events or something I'm meaning, I feel like what would serve us is to hear about other communities. So maybe it could be something more like, where we're not discussing county business, but maybe it's just sort of a learning opportunity about, artists or, leaders in other communities. I don't know. So that's, I guess, kind of what I had in mind. And then the collaborations, I mean, I kind of see that as a collaboration, I guess. It's not the same as collaborating to bring a public art piece or something to get to life. But I don't know. I think it would be worthwhile to get just feedback on, would even that kind of be counted as a meeting? We're just feeling a little bit, I don't know. We just want to make sure we're complying with what is needed. So
yeah, because we start getting into the whole meeting notification, quorum, all of those things come into play whenever we gather to discuss any topic. And so I think it'd be worth sharing the document with the city attorneys and just getting a read on, are we outside of the bounds of what our purpose is or not?
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I would definitely, and once we have that clarification, then we know, and then we can kind of use that to guide everything moving forward. So it's a little bit of a process, but we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, is there any other discussion around this? We don't have much time left, and I do want to get to our other items before we run out of time. It sounds to me like we need a table discussion around this until we can get clarity from Lisa and the other folks in our city attorney's office. I mean, really related to, I'm kind of hearing Helen like, okay, if we're saying something is a knowledge sharing event and not a public record meeting, like, what's the difference between an event and the meeting? Not really sure. Is tabling an event or a meeting? Is there a difference? So it's all kind of just tied together into that, the last item we were talking about on our agenda. So,
but I think that the document that we have in Google Drive is basically what we would like to move forward with.
Right.
And we just need to dot our I's and cross the T's and make sure this is this is, that we're within the bounds of our purpose and function. And then we move forward. I mean, then I think the document is fine.
Well, I will make a commitment to share that. I'll share this document with our city attorney's office and go ahead and use that space to ask our other questions about events versus meetings and tabling events and tablings and meetings, locations and promotions, and just those related questions. So yeah, any other questions or discussion around that?
Well, and just to add, because I meant to email this to Madeline earlier, but the mayor and commission did vote last night to extend the emergency order, so we can still meet virtually in both our regular meetings and committee meetings until September 7th. And they'll be voting again on September 6th. So it may, depending on what's going on, because the transmission rate is really high right now. So they are both saying, yes, you can meet virtually, and we are kind of discouraging you to meet in person while transmission is high. But if we do meet in person, we have to mask up and distance and all that fun stuff, but we can do that at the Lennon House. So just let me know how y'all want to proceed. But that's, I wanted to share that in preparation for our next meeting too.
All right, great. Next item on the agenda, I put this on here. The item is voting on a committee chair position, but I would like to table this to a future meeting to be determined if we need to hold this at all, because I do think that if we do need to hold this committee chair vote to just assign someone else to do it, I think we can wait until after our September regular meeting, which is when we will hold an election and a vote for filling the chair position. And I think any other kind of changes we can just do after we see if anything is going to change from that, or see if anybody's responsibilities are going to change from that. So I would like to table that, if that is okay with everyone. Cool. So this, I don't think I've officially put this on the agenda, but new business, if anybody has anything they would like to bring up, this is our time. One thing that I realized I needed to talk to you all about is that the Art Summit is this weekend. Way to go, Tatiana and co. It's going to be awesome. The keynote speaker on Friday night is amazing. And the event is going to be really strong on Saturday. I think it's going to serve a lot of people. And so I registered to go. So I will get to hear Tatiana and Stephanie both give presentations, which is very exciting. So Dee Dee Dunphy reached out, not to my ACAC email address, but I think it's relevant. But Dee Dee Dunphy reached out saying that because the Art Summit on Saturday is being held at the Morton, they, I think, only have the lobby space for any sort of information sharing, which means that unlike the last Art Summit that the Arts Division held in, was that like right at the top of 2020, or was that 2019?
That's 2020.
Yeah, that's like right before COVID times, I guess.
No, it was 2019. It was 2019. Yeah, because we didn't do anything 2020. But yeah, not as much space. So yeah, but we will have a table for materials. So I have all our brochures and things like that. But if anyone has anything from any other arts organizations that they are part of or collaborate with, and they have brochures and things, get those to me and I can put those on that.
I do have a new pamphlet it's a sort of a one sheet that Helen created, and it's awesome. We distribute it at our AthFest table. It is a map of the bus shelters, like all inclusive, and it's pretty great. And I don't think we had one before, so I'll get those to you. I also still have the stand-up banner that I need to return to you. So I will get with you via email on, or just, on when I can come by to drop those off. So yeah, I was going to ask if there's anything else that we wanted to add beyond the pamphlets we know we already have. We don't have any, I mean, we have the Greenway calls for art. I don't know if that's something that we would want to you know, just share like a printout, a QR code or something to that, or what do you think, Tatiana?
Yeah, I'm gonna have probably some kind of little QR code table tent kind of things for our calls and some things like that. But yeah, if any of you have anything like that that you want to share, any collateral or swag, whatever, Monty always has stuff. You know, just let me know.
All right, any other items for discussion?
Wonder, like, and this is not necessarily like a super big project, but like, what are some organizations that we could like partner with? Or I don't know if we've spoken about this in previous outreach work group meetings, but have we conversed about like different organizations we could partner with?
Yeah, partner with in what way do you have in mind?
Well, I was thinking perhaps like being able to maybe if it's like more youth oriented and like create some sort of like, you know, little like presentation if they're already having like an event, or I don't know what ability we may have to provide like a space for an organization that may be already doing something, and then for us to be able to, I don't know, it's more complex than tabling, so I don't want to like throw anything in there that like is above like our capacity. But I wanted to see kind of like what ways we can partner with orgs.
Yeah, that's a great point to bring up. I don't recall any recent discussion about that in this meeting outside of kind of our conversation around tabling. I do think that we have a document also in our outreach team, you know, in the Google Drive. We have a document to specifically collecting, I've shared this before, tabling ideas for, let's say, fiscal year 2023. So like, you know, the remainder of this year and then the next couple months, just to get some ideas and set some goals. So I think that would be a great place to start to add some ideas. I don't think in my time on the commission, it's really just been all COVID time. So the outreach opportunities for like, you know, there is this youth oriented event that's already planned by another organization would be a great tabling opportunity. There just haven't been too many of those since my time on the commission and or since we've reactivated our outreach team this year, slowly but surely. So I think that would be great. And I think it is within, you know, volunteer capacity to lead those tabling or, you know, presentations. I think probably as long as we're not, you know, we're clearly stating that we are volunteers on the commission and not, you know, creating any confusion about staff or things like that. I think that sounds appropriate and would be a cool way to reach people. As far as the other point about providing space, if we are doing something, I don't have any, I think the thing that comes to mind is if there is something relevant at like a ribbon cutting type of event that is more directly related to ACAC work. I'm thinking something like the Arts Division's Art Summit. That's a little different. That's outside of the scope. We can, you know, of course, like connect people with Tatiana as the public art coordinator for information is available, but I don't know that that would be something that we could like as directly help connect. I don't know if that answers your question.
As a BAC, yeah, y'all don't have like an actual space, you know. You know, the Linden House is kind of y'all's space, but you know, the Cultural Affairs Commission doesn't control that facility.
Right.
So as far as providing space, you know, they could maybe help coordinate it or something like that, or make a connection. But the commission doesn't have a space of its own to provide.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, outside of
Which
this
I
sort
think
of
is
like
confusing
satellite,
to a lot of folks. Yeah.
outside of this sort of satellite ribbon cuttings, if there was ever like a project that was relevant to an organization, I don't know if we've done that before. I can't think of an example in the last couple of years, even though we've had a lot of ribbon cuttings. I don't think we've done any even just informational partnerships, which I think is a really, really great idea. So thanks for bringing that up. Yeah,
no, I'm sorry for bringing any confusion, or I know we're nearing the end of this, but you know, just one of the things that I wanted to work on in this commission was to be able to work with organizations, particularly organizations that serve immigrant communities, to be able to kind of provide some sort of platform for them to embrace cultural heritage and their arts. And so I'm fairly new to this commission, so I'm still kind of looking at what that looks like. But I always appreciate when you guys can answer questions and kind of let me know what's within our limitations.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would say that what we can do to move on that is, like, let's just start adding ideas for, even if it's not a specific event, if there is an organization that you think would be a good outreach relevant partner potentially for a tabling event or something like that, let's go ahead and add it to our tabling idea list. So it says tabling opportunities, but you can also just think of that as maybe not necessarily just event-based, which I think most of our ideas so far are, but also maybe just with organizations. And then we can work out how and when would be like an appropriate way to do that. Because I do think, to your point, it would help to achieve our goal of increasing engagement and awareness of art and cultural affairs in Athens. So
that works.
All right. Any other items for new business before we adjourn? All right, well then let's adjourn. I don't know, do I need to have a vote motion for that, or do I just say it's adjourned? I'll just say it's adjourned. Great, thank you, everybody. Thanks, I'm learning. I love rules and processes, but I don't know what they are necessarily yet. So, all right, so I will share these minutes after I clean them up tomorrow. Just a notice in advance of our meeting on Monday. Don't forget to send Helen your feedback on these project scope of work. Please do that by Sunday so that she can have time to reflect on that, or just prepare for the meeting Monday night. Let's see what else. Art Summit this weekend. I sent out a poll for the meeting on Monday. I sent that out directly to email, and I also emailed about it regarding our meeting location, since the Mayor and Commission did vote to approve the emergency order that allows us to meet virtually or call in, to a meeting. So at this point, we can decide majority vote, essentially, or not vote, but we can just decide where to meet. Continue with the in-person Linden House as we had planned, or just keep to WebEx for now. So please fill that out. I set a pretty quick deadline. Please share your preference if you have one by 1:00 p.m. tomorrow, so that we can, if there is an update, we can finalize that and share that with Tatiana. And that's it. Okay, bye, Montu. We're all going to leave now as well. But yes, I want to please fill that out by 1:00 tomorrow, so I can share it with Tatiana, and she can make any arrangements from there to update the public notice location in the public notice. So.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.